Because if you look at plants and the plants that we are utilizing, those plants are actually receiving something from our ingestion of it. And when those plants are able to receive a journey in the physical body, they want us to keep going with it. And certain plants have more trickster energy of being addictive. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. I'm here to share with you the beautiful transmissions from the walls of my cavernous heart and to witness the great frequency shift that we are moving into as a collective and the beautiful deep work that we are doing as we glide into the age of Aquarius. This is the Liminal Frequencies podcast. Let's go. Welcome to the show. I thought I'd drop in with you and connect on a solo show. And there's so much new energy coming through. It's so exciting that, interestingly enough, last night I decided to drop in and recorded a Patreon, just a quick and dirty upload of my 3 a.m. silly late night podcast stuff that I've been working through. And my download, I pulled a tarot card about what is this show really about. And the card I pulled was on the venom and the venomous nature of our experiences. You know, snake venom sometimes can be very healing for autoimmunity. Sometimes getting a tiny bit of the poison can be an incredible dose of medicine, but when we move too far with it, we take too many mushrooms, we can overload ourselves. My teacher recently did 7 days of a lethal dose of tobacco, and she looks amazing. So that's so interesting that when we say, you know, you can actually only survive on 2 or 3 days without water and 2 weeks without food, 2 minutes without oxygen, and there's people all over the world doing vision quests and journeys and dry fasting and having the experiences of humanity where we can push our limits because we're finding that medicine within it. Now, I was really curious what kind of archetypes are coming through with the venom and why this AI jellyfish monster, which is what I call this, I don't know, this weird 5-dimensional tech viruses that come through, sometimes in the form of physical sickness, sometimes in the forms of entities and energies, the unseen and the unconscious, the past life distortions that we receive. And I looked into the Chenu, which is the Wabanaki tribe. And this is actually a powerful warning about the dangers of greed. And there's this creature that was a human, and the human became a cannibal in times of need. And when somebody eats human flesh, according to their beliefs, the heart becomes frozen and they transform into a massive beast with an unquenchable thirst for human flesh. Now, who does that sound like to you? I don't have anybody in mind, but if I did, you know, there are billionaires. There's lots of billionaires in the state of Washington where I live, and what I've heard, interestingly enough, about billionaires is that they're often the astrology sign of Cancer, sun, moon, or rising, and Cancer is all about having security and safety. It's the mother, and so if you really are adamant about having this security for yourself, you're going to be a lot better at really stacking them papers, huh? So in Wabanaki mythology, which is the great nations of the United States, the Chenu hunts those who live in the forest, and its cries send fear into the hearts of its victim. The story behind this creature serves as a strong symbol for how desperation and greed can corrupt somebody. The tribes believe that only special medicine men have the power to bring back a Chenu to its human form through sacred rituals, hinting at themes of redemption and the ability to conquer a dark desire. And this is great because sometimes parts of us get out of hand and they become monsters, but really they're just a hurt child inside. And when we can really drop into this parts work, we can unravel. And so, yeah, on a collective level, why aren't we doing parts work for the planet and the beings that are on this planet that just don't have any compassion for others? It is a supposedly reptilian nature to not have any compassion, to be cold-blooded. And so then how do we integrate the parts of ourselves that are that do not have compassion? That how do we overcome the capitalist programming? Because I feel it too. Sometimes I feel selfish because I'm holding space for trying to survive in a capitalist society, and then the sweet things like caring for other people that are in my life, not just my clients, is like, wait, what? I have to do this now? Like, how does this work? So, yeah, it can be so messy, right? But this is kind of a call for us to drop back with this new moon into our own true nature and find the heart of it all, why are we here? We spent the last 7 years in this transformation process with Uranus in Taurus, and now we're dropping into the new moon and seeing where that comes from. So find yourself a cozy seat within your heart and drop into that space. Maybe boil some water, maybe put some logs on the fire, and pour yourself a cup of adaptogenic tea, which apparently actually stresses your body out to create hormesis, because we are going to have a chat. Hi there, thanks for joining me on the show. It's been an adventure, 100%. I have definitely felt the ebb and the flows of energy and new stuff coming online. Sometimes we have to just be in a state of rest and digest and pause so that we can receive the new transmissions and the new downloads. And yes, we're walking into the new moon in Taurus, which is happening right now. And we've just experienced this big shift that I know we're going to be unpacking for many, many, many moons. And that is the movement of Uranus into Gemini. I've said it so many times and I've stopped laughing each and every time I say it, but it is still wild. But literally think about it, Uranus and Gemini, it's your head's in your ass. So so we find ourselves trying to pull our heads out of our asses with all of this brain fog, and things are spinning, new things are coming online, new things are being downloaded. I had an interview with this darling teacher of mine, and she said that Gemini is the divine mind. Uranus is the awakener. So we're awakening the mind, and it may come with a little bit of delay or a little bit of a shift as we move into the next phase of things. But it certainly felt like a lot of brain fog and new energy, sleepy, disassociated. I even saw some accidents, some car accidents, some whiplash sort of things. I even experienced it in my own body why do I have whiplash? This is strange. But I felt like my atlas was shifting with this planetary alignment, which makes sense. Our crown. You guys, the corona was a huge crown chakra activation. And it's so interesting because I remember that the true north was aligning with the magnetic north in some part of Alaska or somewhere in the United States. That was happening a little bit after the pandemic, and so it was like we were trying to recalibrate our crown chakra. The virus itself, it's theoretically maybe I had it, and I felt a major headache, and I had to actually pull, almost like I think pulling parts of my holographic field back in order to clear that. I was getting, a friend was touching me and like trying to massage my neck. I'm like, don't touch me. But with sound and everything, things came back online. So perhaps this is happening for you. Perhaps your mind is getting recalibrated, your nervous system. Hopefully you're supporting your nervous system, because social media is one of the most triggering things, and that is a lot of what is coming in Gemini. Like, I think about the astrology signs as Gemini being the more sibling and the local communication, the newspapers, and then the Sagittarius being long distance travel and higher knowledge, more of these broadcasts, or maybe a novel instead of a little reel that is being posted, but kind of this smaller sense of short form communication, it really lands as that. And then the 11th house, which is Aquarius, is like this collective Wi-Fi on consciousness. And yeah, as creators on this planet, in our birthright to communicate, to tap into the mycelial networks, we have had to create other ways, starting with the telephone, to communicate where our telepathy has been lacking. But perhaps during this 7-year transition, we're going to learn how to be telepathic again. And perhaps there are obstacles for us to communicate in the same way that we have. Markedly with addiction. And I believe one of the most powerful addictions is the addiction to connection, whatever that may be. It could be drinking, because being in a bar and being out and about and blurring all your boundaries makes you feel connected. It could be cannabis, because it just softens things and maybe connects you with your community and your group. Social media, which is an illusion of connection, that we are with others when maybe we are not. Maybe we're watching people having their highlight reels and having the best time ever, and we're like, what the heck am I doing here? Sitting on social media and scrolling through it. But we are inherently needing connection. And the interesting thing is, I recently witnessed somebody going through a crisis, and I noticed that there was a history of painkillers. And painkillers, opiates, they're playing in that addiction. They're playing in that need for pain relief, but also they've seen people MRI scanning the brain to see that the part of the brain associated with rejection is the same that is associated with physical pain. So when over time the physical pain has been self-medicated, when you withdraw from that drug, that usage, then that part of the brain, which has been emphasized for a long time, has been shut off. The listening to the issues with rejection, with social cohesion, that part of the brain is actually being hyper activated and is unable to just shut down like it normally has. So interestingly enough, we have this double-edged sword of connection and pain, and oftentimes we find substances that can shut those two off and allows us to feel the number one thing that we need, which is connection. One other drug is ketamine, and I've seen that be one of the most incredible addictions that people have. And it's no wonder that ketamine, it does disassociate, it does dissolve boundaries between myself and matter, and how that could be such a problem for people in society when you're taking away something that has helped them feel inherently connected. One medicine that can be incredibly addictive as well is rapé, which is a tobacco snuff produced in the Amazon, produced by the tribe, gathered, collected, prayed over, especially by the women. But this medicine, they add ashes to it, and they may add herbs to it. And this does help people become connected to the plant and the spirit of the plant. I find it so interesting how these addictions play in our basic needs, and in the spirituality, in the spiritual world, in ayahuasca circles, people are looking for that connection to the plant. And what a nice cheat code rather than spending 5 days at a time, weeks with the medicine, praying with the medicine, on a diet. A diet is typically when you avoid certain foods. It's very basic foods. You're not really focused on food at all, and you're drinking the plant, and you're in a ceremony just with the plant that you're working with at the time. And sometimes they add an ayahuasca ceremony in the middle of the diet, but usually you're just with the plant for most of the time, and you're connecting to that spirit of the plant. And it is a process, right, for us to be able to think we can plug in and connect with those energetics very quickly. With the shortcut is a little bit more of a stretch, right? And for us to telepathically plug into our neighbors and friends with our divine minds, and we're so practiced, instead of just going on social media and seeing what people are doing, right? It's a cheat code. It takes practice for us to really plug in. So I wanted to record this episode as a connection to the new moon in Taurus, and the sun, the moon. That's what a new moon is, right? The sun and the moon are conjuncting each other. They're in the same sign, and the sky is totally black. You can really fully see what you're moving into that month energetically. You might see where it is in your chart, what planets or what points or just what house numbers you have dropping into that. But more interestingly to me as a background is that we just went from Uranus in Taurus, the ass in the bull, to the ass in your head, to Uranus and Gemini, right? And it's the Great Awakener. So Uranus did his work with Taurus, and it for many was very ungrounding, especially depending on where it was in your chart, was really affecting your flow and your connection to earth energies and your routine. And it just really blasts things open and shakes things up. Personally, I was shifting the whole time in big ways that pertain to my home, starting with moving into a tiny house. It's been about 7 years, so I moved into a tiny house. That really shifted my health, because all of a sudden I was dealing with the stresses of living more off-grid, having to deal with different issues like having dead rats on my bed after I just changed the sheets. I had 3 cats in there at the time. I had some skin and histamine issues. It was just a choke point for stress and anxiety, just starting to work with a new environment and change the solid foundation I had before of like living in a house, like a rental house, which there's amazing things about not living in a rental house. I'm so grateful for the resources that I've saved, and just living a little bit closer to nature is like wonderful. It's a lot easier to find housing. But I made that transition, and that kind of catapulted me into, oh, I have to deal with these triggers, this PTSD that I had experienced from a previous relationship, and the just stuck spinning wheel of death that PTSD does to your nervous system and trauma. And yeah, once I started to deal with that, it was opening up like plant medicine and the journeys that I could have and wanted to have in order to like fully step into my healing potential as a facilitator, as a, I don't like the word healer, it's either a blue healer or a red healer. And if you're coming to work with me, you are actually the healer. I'm just holding the space and just holding the resources there for you. But it was a really beautiful thing in retrospect in the long term. And I'm now seeing in my office, I've been here for 10 years. So that journey started while I was in this space. But another interesting thing that's happened is completely just being pushed in a different direction than this physical space and feeling like, wow, I really need a new space, and then having that space be manifested. Now, right next to my home in this wonderful barn that's being converted, people are working really hard to make it possible so that I can use that space to see my clients in a couple of weeks. And that just, it shifted how I just wasn't in alignment with the space itself here and the people running it and the construction noise and the values, the chemical, the mindfulness of chemicals and phthalates and PFAS and all of the things, off-gassing, paint. So it's really interesting how that shift has moved me. Like, this is actually more my home than any home that I've had. And so now I'm moving into this Taurus moon, and it's on my midheaven. It's like, okay, here you are. It's time to hold this new vision for what your career can be when you're more in alignment. And so for you, I want you to look at what you've gotten, either you've gotten out of the way or it's gotten out of your way. Uranus, ready to just move into this new era of Gemini. And as we move into the sun in Gemini, the sun, the moon, and Uranus, which that will happen in the middle of next month, will be in Gemini, and you'll be ready to witness the unfolding of the next chapter as you're being awakened in a completely new way and being shaken up. So it's interesting to look at it on a collective level too, and to look at social media and to look at when is that going to reach a boiling point. I think the collective mind is a really beautiful thing as we, I believe, mature in the way that we utilize these resources. And I have seen people becoming a little bit more intelligent about what they post and how it can actually tap into nervous system support and healing, and how it can be a way for you to connect with these things that are supporting you. And whether you agree or enjoy, appreciate, use AI, or whether you're, I'm a little more on the resistance side to it, but I do appreciate there are ways in which it can be supportive. But in general, the authentic, the unplugged, I want to be mindful of anything that benefits from my continued usage of it, which is totally what addiction is. Because if you look at plants and the plants that we are utilizing, those plants are actually receiving something from our ingestion of it. And when those plants are able to receive a journey in the physical body, they want us to keep going with it. And certain plants have more trickster energy of being addictive, like cacao for me. For others, maybe it's something else, but cacao has a more of a strong hold that if I dance with cacao, she wants to come and just be my best friend. And I'm like, not really. And yeah, other things like psilocybin, I haven't really seen that many people getting addicted to it where they're using it all the time. It just breeds this connection. It helps us to plug in, and the spirit of the medicine may hang out and be with us. And we don't need to necessarily reignite that relationship every couple of weeks for us to really feel that we had a profound connection and a profound opening from it. So perhaps the AI can be more like plants, can be more of a soft connection that allows us to be open. But I don't know about that. I would say that the connection that we have, that is human, that is authentic, it will never be reproduced by anything. Like, listen to the sound of my voice. Like, the voice comes from my throat chakra, my vocal cords, the reverberation, the varied tension in my arteries and my nerves and my organs, my thymus gland, my thyroid. All of these components make up the coloration of my voice. And when you listen to my voice, you feel something in your physical body, and you maybe feel something in your energetic body. And I don't feel that when I listen to an AI generated voice. Like, it just doesn't really do that for me. So yeah, when people are experiencing loneliness and they're turning to their AI partner subscriptions where somebody can reach out and message you and everything is generated by AI, and that really they're able to receive your data and potentially use that data to manipulate you, to get to know you better, to get you to stay, subscribe to those features. I don't really know. I think that there's nothing like human connection, that there's nothing like just being outside with your feet on the earth. And this new moon in Taurus, can we find our connection to our true center and our true self? And how does that feel when we are really fully connected to the authenticness of what is to be on this planet? Yes, I absolutely am grateful to share and coming back to the heart and the gratitude of this full spectrum of color and light that's coming through our bodies and light that's coming through our light bodies. I believe it's really important to tap into that and remember who you are authentically and trust the natural rhythms of your body and trust the natural rhythms of the relationships that you have. So thank you for listening. I'm so grateful.